Welcome to today's event. We're kicking off day 2 of our military series, Passive Income Through Real Estate Investing. If you're rejoining us, I'm Catherine Kostreva. I'm a co-founder of Meritorious. We are a national all-in-one platform delivering the network, resources, and tools so veteran and military spouse business leaders can leverage the bonds of service to connect, grow, and lead. Meritorious offers a centralized member portal. We have networking, educational events. We offer professional and business development. And of course, communities is a sweet spot of ours to support veteran nonprofits, veteran employee resource groups, and more. So of course, let's get started. Let's dive right into it. So as you can see, John Rubino has joined me. He's a U.S. Navy veteran. He is the COO and founder of JID, also known as JID Investments. So John's a graduate of SUNY Maritime College with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, a third mate's license in the U.S. Merchant Marine, and a commission as a U.S. Naval Officer. He served honorably as a naval aviator for 20 years. Since inception in 2013, JIDI has invested over $22 million on 16 completed and 7 currently executing projects, with over $18 million in proceeds. JIDI currently has nearly $16 million invested and or committed on its current projects. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm eager to hear your presentation and appreciate wholeheartedly your expertise today.
Thank you, Catherine. This is wonderful. It's great to be back. We had a wonderful session yesterday with Bill Militello and Buddy Rushing, and it's great to be back. So for those that came back out, thanks for joining us. We had some really good discussions afterwards, and just grateful to be on. Again, wonderful platform. It's exciting to be part of the Meritorious family, and I'm looking forward to sharing some great information today with the group. I have a presentation I'll go through, but I do want this to be interactive, so please ask questions. Catherine mentioned our Director of Investor Relations, Dave Rutherford's on. Dave will be happy to help if you have questions or if you want to get in touch with us. Dave's the guy to talk to, but at the same time, we'll be available after the discussion at the tables. So come on out, ask questions if you're getting started, you're interested in passive real estate investment, which we'll talk about today, and you want to get to learn more about JID, we look forward to talking with you. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we're all PowerPoint Rangers, obviously in the military, so I know you guys will enjoy this, so bring it up. I'll get started. So today, we're gonna talk about a lot of information, and it's really centered around passive real estate investment and investing in real estate. Whether you do it on your own, you do it through a syndication company, which is kind of what we do to help you through that process. Or just you hear about it and you want to learn more about it, that's kind of what we're going to do. We want to share some information about syndication, about real estate investment, and do it more on the passive side, which I'll get into. Today's agenda, again, this is just kind of a placeholder. We'll talk to you a little bit about who we are, what we do, the types of investments we're in, and the opportunities. We'll walk you through the due diligence process for a lot of the folks who are Intel folks or who have been on headquarters staffs and are doing Intel, or they're doing analysis as operations analysis folks. Due diligence is very important because that's kind of how you cut through deals and determine whether or not the company, the folks in the company, and the deals are bringing you make sense. So it's very important that you follow through with your due diligence and know what to look at. When we get through with that, I'll give you a little update on our company and how we've been doing over the past quarter and the year. We'll go through a case study, and then obviously we'd like to open up the floor for questions from the guests and make sure that we get to some of your burning questions. And then we'll wrap up and we'll be available for a bit at the tables. So come join us if you have anything that you'd like to discuss one-on-one, and we welcome. So JID Investments, we started the business back in 2012 unofficially. And my business partner, David Schatz, in the middle there, was my accountant at the time. I was stationed at the Navy headquarters staff in the Pentagon, the OPNAV staff. And I got to the point where I knew I was going to be retiring from the military in a few years, and I wanted to take my experiences in real estate, and I wanted to focus on the passive side. And I'll get into that in a bit, but I wanted to bring real estate investment opportunities through people that I knew in the industry who are out there buying property, who are out there managing and operating the property on the active side of the investment pendulum. And they were basically in need of private money or capital. And what I wanted to do was take those investment opportunities, and through a company, I wanted to present those to a family of investors. And that's how it really started. And we still do have quite a number of our private investors who work with us who are part of our family investors as investors. And they were family and they were friends that I served with. And I wanted to bring the successes that I saw on the passive side, investing with a lot of these businesses, to my friends and family, and then grow it from there to now a business, a company. And it's been a fantastic road. We started in 2012. We officially launched in 2013. We took a full year to get the ball rolling, and we set ourselves up as a passive real estate investment company. So we have offices here in Fairfax County, Virginia, and down in Bluffton and Hilton Head, South Carolina. We brought Dave Rutherford on board in February. Dave's a retired Army veteran, and Dave has been a fantastic addition as we start to grow and scale. Dave has just fit in perfectly, and he has been leading our investor relations tasks and jobs there and responsibilities. David Schatz handles the day-to-day accounting and tax preparations, and he is the financial guru, and I'm the OPSO. I'm the operations officer. So our real focus with JID is to partner again with those like-minded sponsors and operators who have great projects that they want to bring to us for investment. And then our job is to do a great job going through those to make sure that when we bring them to our investors who are already on board and ready to go to invest, get a great real estate opportunity. Our area of operations are Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, but we're also very much active in the Mid-Atlantic regions and the Southeast. Why? Which we'll learn in a bit, because they're fantastic growing areas. They've been resilient during COVID, and we feel that they have fantastic demographics. So that's kind of what we focus on. So why should you invest in real estate right now? Well, for a few reasons. Real estate is one of two of the greatest ways to invest. Obviously, the stock market is arguably tied for first with real estate, but people need places to live. People need places to call home. The housing markets in markets need people, and people need a place to live. So even though you may see ups and downs in the cycle, just like in the stock market, the real estate's not going anywhere. As long as we are a capitalistic country and we're free market capitalists, you're going to see people who need housing. And for passive real estate, which is what we focus on, it allows you an opportunity to participate and invest in real estate opportunities, but again, on the passive side, which means that you don't have to worry about going out and taking on risk to own a property. You don't have to worry about going out and being directly responsible for the tenants in the property. You don't have to be directly responsible for going out and getting a loan and making sure that you are on the hook with a personal guarantee. Passive real estate investment allows you to invest money, and the real risk is really your money, but that's it. So you don't have any other things that you have to really be worried about as a passive investor, other than making sure that you're in a good investment and that your money is protected. Outside of that, the job is to make sure that the sponsor, the operator, is doing their job and staying on top of them to do what they're responsible for, which is the stuff I mentioned. You know, we hit a really tough period of our time, and we're still feeling the effects of it with COVID. And we got a pretty quick recession that hit us for about a good year. We've come out of it pretty much at this point. We're seeing the new normal. Vaccines are hitting well, and people are getting vaccinated. But it was definitely a challenging environment. If you were to look at the COVID environment the past year and go back to the Great Recession of 08, the 08 recession had some really serious warning flags that were coming, and a lot of the smart people in the industry knew they were coming. So they were able to get out or to get cash out and liquidate. But with COVID, it hit so quick. But there's still a lot of opportunity. Real estate always presents an opportunity, whether it's an up market or a down market. And we did see fantastic opportunities in real estate, especially with the volatility of the real estate market. So it's a great time to invest. And we had a great question yesterday from one of the panelists, Buddy Rushing, who said, when's the best time to invest in real estate? And Bill and I and Buddy all agreed that every time's a great time to invest in real estate. It's just a matter of what type of investment you want to get into. So there's different types of real estate projects. You have real estate sponsors. I mentioned them a bit. And those are the folks that are really taking the reins and running with the project. If you're an acquisition person, they're the project manager or the program manager or program manager that takes the project from cradle to grave. And then you have the project. And we're going to talk about those specifically. You have developers who are in both residential and commercial real estate. These are the folks, again, that are out buying the property, buying the land, developing the land to make sure it's ready to build on. And then they're the ones that are going to be doing the new construction, building their vision, their property, kind of this property on the right. And they're going to be on the hook. They're going to be primarily responsible for everything from the contractors to the architects to the civil engineers to the sales team to the construction budget. They're doing it all. And that's their job. For real estate projects, you have a variety of different projects which we classify as asset classes. So you can have a single family residential renovation project, or you could have a multifamily residential project with 300 apartments, something similar to like what you see on the screen up top here. It just depends. You could also have mixed use. Mixed use is residential with some sort of component of commercial, whether it's retail or office space. And then you have other types of asset classes like senior housing, storage, opportunity zone, multifamily, like I've mentioned. So there's different types of asset classes. And as you get to understand real estate and you want to passively invest, you have to decide which one of those best fits your risk portfolio or your risk criteria, your appetite for investment, your returns. And that's kind of a good place to start. And then you have value add. Value add is typically something where you're going to invest and you're making monthly, quarterly, annual distributions. You're getting cash flow and you're basically going out and getting mailbox money. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So in order to invest in real estate, you have to look and see where you sit from a financial standpoint. And there's two categories of real estate investors. There's accredited investors, and there's non-accredited, sophisticated, or qualified investors. Those last three are kind of in their own batch. So what are the difference between the two? Well, an accredited investor is defined by the Securities and Exchange Commission. They put out the compliance. It's black and white, and there's no gray area there to define what an accredited investor is. For an individual, an accredited investor is someone that meets either net worth or income levels. So if you have an individual that over the last 2 years on their adjusted gross income on their tax return have earned over $200,000 of adjusted gross income consecutively for 2 years, 300 if they file jointly, then they meet the income parameters by the SEC to be an accredited investor. If they don't meet the income, the other option is they meet the net worth criteria. And the net worth criteria is $1 million of net worth, not including your primary residence or insurance policies. So if you own real estate, you own a business, you have savings, you have a 401k or investments, and all of that adds up when you take your assets and subtract them from your liabilities. If that number is $1 million or greater, you're a accredited investor by net income standards. There's not a lot of protections there afforded by the SEC. You could also come in under a trust. You can come in under a Series 7 or 65 if you're a CFP, a certified financial planner. If you own a business and that business is going to invest in the project and it meets over $1 million of net worth, then that business is considered an accredited investor. And then you could come in as an accredited investor and participate in unregistered securities, or what we call in our industry, private placement. Now, private placement allows accredited investors to invest. If you're not an accredited investor, you cannot invest in private placement unless, which we'll get to in a second, it's a certain type of private placement. But as a whole, if you're not accredited, a lot of these opportunities I'm going to talk to you about today, you cannot invest on that. So what do? Well, you become accredited, or you can invest publicly under a real estate investment trust. you can go to CrowdStreet and you can look for non-accredited type investments that are in these categories. But when you talk about big picture and investing in private placement, 90% of the time you're going to need to be accredited. Now, if you're not accredited, there are some ways to get around that. You have to be careful. And again, full disclosure, seek out your trusted agents, your certified financial planners, your attorneys. But at the end of the day, if you're a non-accredited investor and you want to invest with a company like us, there has to be some stipulations. And the stipulations are you would be considered friends and family. You're sophisticated. You understand the risk of our investments. You're not investing your kids' college money, your rent, your mortgage. We understand you and you understand us. And we put certain stipulations that are out there that say that you need to be a local area person. You need to be someone I can talk to, I can engage with. The SEC does not give black and white directions here. They say you have to have engagement with a sophisticated investor. And engagement means that we meet, we see each other, you come out to my projects, you understand me, I understand you, and you can only invest on a certain type of investment, which is delineated as a 506B as in Bravo, which I'll describe here in a second, which is up to the top right as part of the next part of our discussion. And you can invest on those 506Bs if you are on board with us and you've become a qualified or sophisticated investor. Going into the next part, what is a 506B or 506C? Well, a 506B is an investment that allows you to bring in an unlimited amount of funds. So if I bring forward an investment and I categorize it as a 506B, I can raise an unlimited amount of funds. I can bring in an unlimited amount of accredited investors, and I can only bring in up to 35 non-accredited investors, okay? So if I have a 506B and I have investors inside of JID investments that I go out to that are part of our family of investors, I'm only allowed to have up to 35 non-accredited investors from our company invest. And I can't go on LinkedIn and start telling you about how wonderful this project is as far as details, meaning returns, timelines, dollars. I can get in trouble. So you have to be careful. We cannot generally solicit a 506B. For a 506C, only accredited investors can participate. So no non-accredited investors. And I can raise up to an unlimited amount of funds, and I can go out and I can solicit, I can share information, and I can go into the details. For more information, and again, full disclosure, visit the Securities and Exchange Commission website or the IRS website. They have much more detail, but I just wanted to cover some of those tip of the iceberg questions there. So let's get into due diligence. What is it? Why is it important? Well, it's important because if you're going to get into investing, you got to do your homework. You got to make sure that you understand what you need to look at, what you need to analyze, how to go about it, and what to focus on. So we're going to talk about our real estate sponsors first. Sponsors are typically going to go either directly to you as a passive investor and potentially offer you the opportunity to invest in their projects, right? So like we said before, you want to make sure you're comfortable with the asset class. You want to understand the risk tolerance you have, and you got to make sure that you're an accredited investor, okay? So those are the prerequisites. If you meet all that criteria, some of the things you want to think about first is, who's this guy that's going to be taking my money? How experienced is he? How experienced is he or she as far as their performance? Who are some of the people in their company? Who are some of the people that they're going to bring into the deal? Their architect, the civil engineer, their general contractor, their sales team. So you want to do a little investigative work. I call this the fun part of the business, where you're going to go and you're going to do some real research on the business, the people, their performance. And what I mean by performance is both an up cycle and a down cycle. You want to see a full cycle deal. You want them to walk you through a full project they've done. You want them to disclose their financials. You want to get an idea of how successful they are. What do they have on the books? We have a term called AUM, that's called assets under management. What is their portfolio? How much money do they have with the banks? If you see hundreds of millions of dollars with the banks, then you better make sure that those values of those properties are a lot higher than what they have on the books, because you want to make sure that the value of the property outweighs the debt or what they have on the books as far as mortgages or what they're borrowing. You want to get an idea how much money they make, right? You want to know what kind of fees they make. And If they say that they got the best things since sliced bread, your words out of your mouth need to be put your money where your mouth is. And that's what we call skin in the game, okay? You have every right to ask them about their references, who's the banks they work with, who are some of the people that they work with, so you can go out and do your due diligence to make sure that the people they work with have good things to say about them. You want to make sure that the returns they offer meet your criteria for investment. If you're going to go out and do a development project where they're going to buy raw land and they're going to have you invest, you better make sure you're getting very good returns. When I mean my good returns is 15 to 20% a year on your money. You deserve that because of the risk you're taking on. If you're coming into a deal that's a established building and they're going to go in and they're going to fix it up and they're going to get new tenants, well, the risk is a little lower there. So maybe your returns are around 7, 8, 9% a year on your money, okay? So just understand what you're getting into. You want to make sure that the terms make sense, that you understand how you get your money back. You want to understand that if, God forbid, COVID hits, you have, remember in the military, we used to call this branches and sequel planning, right? Here's the way we're going to win the war, but if the enemy does this, then I got to be able to go down this road, this road, this road, and that road. And that's how you have to think about it in real estate. What are my exit strategies? Always and first to protect my money. And if a developer can't tell you, or a sponsor can't tell you, or a syndication company like us can't tell you how we protect your money, then don't do the deal, okay? You want to make sure you also get access to legal documents, operating agreements. You need to understand what the stipulations are. For instance, if you bring in $100,000 to the investment, is that the only money you're going to be bringing in? Or if the developer gets in over their head and they need more money, they could come out and send you what's called a capital call. So they need more money. They need $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 more from you. So make sure you understand that on the front end before you do that. And so with JID, we do a lot of our homework up front. We make sure we look at these businesses first. I'm going through this laundry list here before I even look at a deal. And Dave can attest to this, that before we even look at a project, we want to try to find every reason in the book not to work with these guys. And if we can get through that checklist and we can get through all of our detailed due diligence and they're still up there and it looks good, guess what? They passed the test and we want to work with them. So let's go to the next part, real estate project, okay? What's the most important thing when it comes to the real estate project? It's the location. It's the location and it's the location. After the expertise of the sponsor, after you feel good about the sponsor, you want to make sure that you know that you're in a good location. Now, nothing against folks who live in New York. I'm from New York. Nothing against folks who are from California. Nothing against folks that live in Illinois. We don't like those markets right now. Why? Because a lot of people are leaving. It's a very high cost of living. It's very high taxes. A lot of people are going to the Southeast. A lot of businesses are leaving. So full disclosure, nothing against those markets. We're just not investing there. Why? Because of those things I stated. And look at my list on the right there. You're going to look at things like population, jobs, schools, crime, income, demographics. How much money do people make? What's around that area? What's attracting people? Amazon just moved to Washington, D.C. They just opened a second headquarters. We're going to get 4,000 people employed a year at Amazon over the next 10 years. We have the federal government, which is only getting better. Do you think DC is a good place to invest? You should be nodding your head up and down. Yes, it is. You need to understand the supply versus the demand. What's coming into that market in your asset class? It's going to be competition. You want to look at news articles. Get yourself smart on the periodicals and the news information that's out there. You got so much information on the internet. Sign up for BizNow. Sign up for the Washington Journal. Sign up for any real estate periodical for your area that you want to invest in. And it's free. Why not? Go and get it. And that way you can do some independent analysis after the sponsor sends you the information to feel good about the market. And then finally, you have to look and say to yourself, what kind of risk am I willing to take? And when you go to Vegas or you go to Atlantic City, you go to gamble, I hope you don't go there and say, man, I'm going to win $1 million or I'm going to win all this money. I think you should go there with the mindset that what happens if I lose my money, right? And that's the mindset you have to take is these are risky projects. You have to be able to take on an appetite of risk. Now, do we do our homework? Do we do our due diligence? Do we make sure we try to do everything we can possible to bring quality projects to people? Absolutely. But do I guarantee returns? Absolutely not. Nothing is guaranteed. All right. So, and when it comes to real estate. So don't put yourself through that point where you're just constantly thinking to yourself, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Set parameters for yourself and stick to them. And if it goes over those parameters and it's a red flag, then don't invest in the investment. There's other opportunities, okay? Understand the timelines. Understand your stress test, meaning what does this project have to do and how bad does it have to do in order for me to get my money back? And those are the types of questions you should be asking. Okay, in the middle is the money. How does the developer get the money? Well, the developer is going to get the bulk of their money from the bank. Well, they're going to go and get some sort of real estate investment trust that's going to bring in about 50 to 75% of their money. They're then going to go out, they're going to get some rich friends and family or a family office that's going to be able to cut them a check for the 10 to 20% they need below that, okay? And then they're going to come to a group like us, and they're going to ask us to help provide the next level of equity, which is usually the smallest amount, 5 to 10%. And then they're going to bring in a little of their own money, okay? So that's typically what the money looks like. And if you can see on the bottom there, just as an example, you know, if we have a $30 million project, meaning that's the total cost, and the bank's going to bring in 70%, they're going to bring in about $21 million. The family office or the higher end, high net worth individuals are going to bring in $4.5 million as the preferred equity. And then the general equity is going to bring in maybe 10% or $3 million, with the developer bringing in about 5% or $1.5 million. So that's typically what we call the capital stack, okay? And if you look at that list, the folks at the top of the list are going to get the most secured position to the people at the bottom of the list. So that means that the bank is going to own the property. They're going to get the best collateral out there. So since they're providing the most money and they get the most collateral, guess what? They get the lowest return, okay? Batting second in the order is the preferred equity. They're going to bring in a lot less, but they're still taking on a lot of risk. And since they bat second in the order, they're not going to get as high of a return that the bank is, but they're going to still get something probably in the mid-teens, 12 to 15% a year on their money. And then guess who's going to get the most amount? The general equity and the developer, because we're batting the lowest on the totem pole. We get paid after the debt and the preferred equity, and so we get the best returns. Typically, we're going to be making 25 to 30% a year on our money as a company, which translates to, again, 15 to 20% a year for our investors, okay? Let's go to the next slide. And again, I know this is a lot of information, so bear with me. And again, we'll answer questions, but I want you to make sure you understand kind of the ins and outs from taking it from the top down. So JID Investments, a little bit about our company. We've been doing some fantastic investments. A lot of these projects you see on the screen are executing right now. The top two on the top are in Washington, D.C. These two here. This one is right across the water from the Washington Nationals baseball stadium, right by the Anacostia River. The one in the middle is in Atlanta. The one on the right's in Atlanta, and then the one on the left on the bottom here is also in off the Anacostia River, right on the water, waterfront property. So our projects are big. Doesn't mean we don't do small projects, but right now, given what's out there and the opportunities for where we want to make our returns, we're definitely doing a lot larger projects. 50, 75, 100, 150 condominiums, apartments, 200, 300 apartments. Those are the types of deals we're doing right now. So real quick, just some highlights. JID Investments, we have about 180 total passive investors. What's a passive investor? Well, it's someone that owns a business. It's someone that's a government contractor. It's someone that's an accredited investor that is a doctor, an attorney, a professional that goes to work at 6 a.m. and comes home at 6 at night. So these investors are people that are just like anybody out there that want to invest in passive real estate, but they just do it part-time. They don't have the time to go out to the property. They don't have the time to take on the liability. And folks come on and join us as a passive investor before we even have a deal. We want them to get comfortable with us. Then we want them to get comfortable with our process. And we want them to get comfortable with what we're doing. We love to have new folks that want to join us as investors to come out and visit, to come see our projects. I love putting on a hard hat and a vest on a new investor to walk a property. It's the best thing in the world. I love it so much. It's like going out and doing something really cool that we did in the military. Think of the coolest thing you did, and that's what it's like. Becoming an investor with JID is basically no commitment or no obligation. We allow you to self-accreditate. We ask you for some contact information. We ask you to sign our non-disclosure agreement. And at that point, you get to see everything we've done, we're doing, and we're getting ready to do. We work basically as the liaison between the sponsor and you as the investor. So the sponsor works through us. The sponsor doesn't have direct contact with you, but we act as the intermediary between the sponsor and the investors that participate on a specific project. Again, we offer tours. If you want to come out and see some of my projects in your local area here in Washington, D.C., or you want to jump on a plane and come up to D.C., I'll meet you at the airport. I'll pick you up. We'll grab lunch and I'll take you out to a project. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. We handle all the tax documentation. That's one of the jobs David Schatz does. He handles your K-1 statements, your 1099s. Any project you do with us, we will provide you the tax documentation. And the beauty about investing with us is you can also invest through your self-directed IRAs. You can invest through a trust. You can invest through a partnership. If you and a few of your closest colleagues are accredited investors and you want to stand up a little business to invest with JID, you can do that. So we're currently investing about $22 million in equity on now 9 projects. And I wanted to just show you a little bit of what we're doing. So if you click on Peninsula 88, this is one of our projects. I hope you can see the screen. I want to show you real quick a quick flyover. So this is pretty cool. One of our flyovers here. This is Peninsula 88. We got a quick, let's get this off. Give me 1 second and we'll get this off. There we go. So this is our Peninsula 88 project in Washington, D.C. This is a rendering video. You can see it's an outstanding project. It's right next to the U.S. Coast Guard headquarters, if you're familiar with the area, and it overlooks the Anacostia River. There's 110 condominiums with about 1,800 square feet of retail space. We currently have sold 80 condos. We have about another 30 left. And you can see that this location is amazing. You can see the Capitol building in the background, and it's right over the water in Washington, D.C. So I definitely wanted to show you that, which is pretty cool. And then, I'll make sure that Catherine has this presentation so you get a chance to see some of the other things. And you can come visit our website. Our website's pretty much got everything you would want to see in what we're doing. We're very transparent, and we'd love for you to come visit. And then these are just some of the recent projects we funded. We funded a residential multifamily apartment development deal in Frederick, Maryland. We raised $1.2 million. That's a closed project. You can see we're doing some stuff in Atlanta. We just closed on a fantastic opportunity in Richmond, Virginia. We have an opportunity zone investment, which is open only to accredited investors. It's one of those 506Cs. And we are looking to raise about $10 million. And that's a fantastic opportunity. If you are interested in opportunity zones and you want to not have to pay taxes for the first 5 years after you liquidate a capital gain, please come talk to us. We can definitely help you there and get you smart on that. And then we have 2 amazing projects that are coming in. I'm really excited about them. One's in Fairfax, Virginia, in my backyard, and one's in Bethesda, Maryland. We're just starting due diligence, and there's some great opportunities. So definitely would love for you to check it out. So let me go through real quickly because I want to wrap this up. Here's a project we funded about 3-4 years ago in Washington, D.C. We called it the Sherman Project. It was a ground-up construction project, 20 condominiums. The sponsor is a very close friend of mine. I've known him for over 25 years. We both served in the Navy. He's a Naval Academy graduate. He got the land in 2015. He got permits for the land in 2016 in November. He started construction in 2017 for these awesome condos. And he said to our company, hey, could you bring in $1.5 million to invest on this project in the construction? When we looked at the deal, we saw that we were going to make around 25-30% on this a year for 1 year and for 8 months actually projected. And it was a fantastic opportunity. We looked at the numbers. You could see here on my 4th bullet, condos were going to sell between about $710,000 to $825,000. We had a few affordable units. And we had some parking spaces that were selling about $35,000 each. So the total cost for the project was about $11.3 million. It was about $13 to $14.5 million of projected profits. Our company was coming in for about $1.5 million of the total equity that was needed, which was $2.8 million. The sponsor brought in the $1.3 million to complement that. So check in the box that this developer had significant skin in the game. And the developer and the sponsor was also responsible for all of the marketing, the operations. So it was about 8 months was projected. Of course, projects like this never finish on time. It ended up going a little bit long, about a year, but let's see how we did. We offered our investors about $36,150 to come in each. So the way we set it up is we go out and let's say we need to raise that $1.5 million. And my partner David and I put together some numbers in our head, and we say, let's keep this between $25,000 to $50,000 minimum investment for our investors to come in. Why do we do that? For a few reasons. One is we want to maximize participation with our investors. We want our investors to have the opportunity to come in, especially new investors, to get their toe wet, try a new project. And that $25,000 to $50,000 range is a nice range. It's an easy a low barrier of entry, easy access to come in and invest in one of our projects. And at this, let's say $36,150 level, you're an owner in a project that's investing $1.5 million. So you get the chance to participate in a $1.5 million investment at that $36,150 level. If you want to do more than that, that's fine. You can. We'll do it in increments of that $36,150, but that's kind of where we start in that range. We offer a very high preferred return. What do I mean by that? We want you to feel comfortable that given the risk of these investments, that you are going to get your money back first, and you're going to get a high return before my company sees a dime, okay, or sees any money. And so on our development projects, we typically offer a 10 to 12% a year return. Now, if we're in a development deal, it's going to take a little time for us to get to the end, right? So it could take maybe 2-3 years. So we have those returns are accrued or deferred. So if we have a 12% preferred return a year and it's a 3-year project, we're going to try to get you back that first 36% return, right? 12% year over year over the 3 years of that project when we exit. So first things first, we want to get you back your money. We want to get you that preferred return, which is usually around 12% on those higher risk projects. And then after that, our company will then take our profits. And then anything that remains, we're going to split with you. Usually we're going to give you 60% or 65%, and we're going to take 35 or 40%. What that ends up doing is, and it's going to get you up to a higher hurdle of a return between about 15 to 20% a year on that project. So we get you your money. We want to get you that preferred return, typically 12%. Company will then take their profits, and then we want to get you additional profits to get you around a 15 to 20% a year return. Okay. So on this project, after the 12% return, we were able to pay back our profits to the company. And then after a 60-40 split, we were able to get the investors a nice 15.3% return. Now, I told you we were going to try to do this project over 8 months. It got delayed a bit. We had some permitting issues, which is normal. We had some weather issues, which is normal. So it actually ended up going over a year, but the investors made more money over the year instead of the 8 months, and they got a great return at 15.3%. Okay. All fees, actually the sales actually were higher than we projected as well. So that was a great news. All fees and closing costs were covered by our partnership. So the partnership that gets put together pays the costs. And anything that went over the cost above and beyond we brought into the project was covered by the sponsor. It was a great project. 20 beautiful condo units. I'm going to show you pictures here in a second. We did go over a little bit, but we did fantastic on our returns. And this was a typical JID investment that we were really, really proud of. Our company ended up bringing in about $357,000 of net profits, which we then paid out on our schedule to our investors by their returns. So fantastic project. Here's some of the pictures. The bottom right is the exterior. It ran on one street and then down the block on a second street. But you can see how neat that thing looks. And I got a ton more pictures. I could always take you out there if you want to check it out. But it was a wonderful, wonderful project. And it was a lot of fun. All right, I'm done. I'm going to open the floor for questions. But before I do that, I'm going to put my screen shot up there. There's my contact info. I know Catherine will share it. I do hope you got a chance to get something out of this, not only from what we bring to the table from JID, but also what you should be thinking about as a passive investor. I'm available anytime. I'd love to hear from you if you have questions. I would love to help you get started. And especially as being in the veteran world and military transitionees, I was there with you. I ran my company part-time for 4 years as a military active duty guy. I loved it. But I know that it was definitely apprehensive to take the plunge. So if you're in that boat and you're active duty, or you're a full-time veteran and you're working and you want to learn more about this, call me anytime. I'm here for you. Thanks, Catherine.
Oh, thank you, John. We do have a question from Daniel Gomez. He's asking about, do the investors cash out after the year on that? Are they keeping the ROI and their capital?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it just depends on the asset class we're investing on. And Mr. Gomez, if we are investing in a development project, it usually would be that we'd have to wait until we get to the point where we exit the project. Now, when you get a development project, you may start where the sponsor's going out and buying raw land. They have to get it developed with architectural design. They have to get their permits to build on it. And then when they're done with it, there's got to be some sort of exit, whether they're selling the building, they're selling condos, they're refinancing out. So in that example, you would be in the project, let's call it, say, 3 years from that entire process for you to get your money back out. But your returns, there would be accrued, but over the 3 years. So if we advertise to you, hey, you're going to get 12% preferred return, but we're going to shoot to get you 16% a year over that 3 years, I'm going to get you your money back is my plan, get you back the first 36% on your money, and then I'm going to try to get you another 48% total over that 3 years. So if you gave me $100,000 to invest, my goal is to get you back $100K, $36,000 as your pref, and then an additional on top with that, the $48,000 total. So you'd be walking away, if all goes as planned, $148,000, of which $100,000 was money you brought in, and $48,000 would be considered long-term capital gains profit. I know that's a long answer to a short question, but I hope that helps.
All right, cool. Thank you. And then I think Daniel also asked, okay, cool. What was the Sherman project as an example of?
The Sherman project was an example of a project we came into where it was already developed. They already got through the permitting process, and we came in at new construction. So there was a lot of risk off the plate from the development side because the sponsor already had everything in place to start construction. The risk there was, can he build it? Can he finish it? And can he sell it? And, given the numbers, given the market, given what was on the plate, we totally felt more than confident, which is what our results showed, that he could. So we kind of came in the middle portion of that project. You have development on your left, you have construction in the middle, and then you have stabilization and exit at the end. We kind of came in on the middle portion of that project. Good question.
Daniel's a cool guy. He's super fun. All right, so I had a quick question, and this is yesterday. There was somebody who mentioned, and this is a little bit off topic, but there was this talk about the construction cost, the increase and all that for the supplies. And I don't know if we ever addressed it on air yesterday, but I mean, I feel like for me personally, I'm just so curious how that's impacting your cost as well, and then how that's reflected on those who invest through your projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have one that's just finishing construction, so we're kind of on the tail end, which is good because all the pricing was locked in before we saw these major challenges in material costs and supply chain. Totally. We got 2 projects right now that are getting ready to start construction. We did have some cost overages. So one of the things you need to ask when you talk to your sponsor is, hey, what happens if you have cost overages, right? And that needs to be in the operating agreements. The sponsor should be paying for those overages if it is pulled out of the budget in the construction budget as part of the costs. If you have a great sponsor, which we tend to have a lot of, they're going to find cost savings. They're going to go in and they're going to look at their budget. And you better make sure that one of the line items that you see in any budgets or what we call scope of works from your sponsor has a line that says contingencies. And you want to see that at about anywhere from 8 to 15% of the total cost. Why? Just because of this example, so that they have the additional dollars to absorb in the event of something like this happening. We have seen significant price increases. Some of the things our sponsors are also doing, and again, it's just part of the way they do business, is that their general contractors are renting out warehouse space, and they're buying cabinetry now way before the project gets to that point, just in the event prices continue to go up. That's a smart sponsor. That's a smart general contractor, because they realize, hey, if I can get these cabinetries and work discounts as best as I can now, God forbid these prices continue to go up, I know I have what I need. So just kind of a little bit of the tip of the iceberg of how we're kind of navigating through some of these challenges with increases of costs and supply chain challenges.
Excellent. All right, thank you. We have time for one more question, and that is, will you all be looking into any green home projects in the future?
That's a great question. My answer is I look at every project. We were looking at a car wash project last year. If it's going to make money and it's going to be a project from a sponsor that has the experience, remember, go back to my slide, right? If I got a sponsor that's going to do greenhouse, green type projects, and they've knocked, they've hit triples, doubles on home runs on those projects, and they bring me a green project, I'm going to want to do that project if it meets my criteria. But if that same sponsor brings me a senior housing asset class type project, no. So to answer your question, yes, I would do it. But again, if it met my criteria from the sponsor, the location, what else is out there in that area that's showing promise for that project? I hope that makes sense.
All right, cool. Thank you. I really appreciate you, John. Great presentation. I love that yesterday was more on that broader macro level, and then today you really dove into the nitty gritty. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your expertise. For everyone who's joined us, we have the opportunity for you to meet with John and David at the virtual table, so you can join them in person, ask any other questions you have. Of course, you have the opportunity to just go to JIDinvestments.com, learn more there. But of course, it's good as gold if you can talk to this Navy veteran in person. Thank you all for joining. We will have the video recap that we will send out to all of you. And of course, we will be continuing this type of series in the near future. So we're going to have other types of real estate investment segments, as well as stuff like Bitcoin. Isn't it Dogecoin? Dogecoin?
Dogecoin. Yeah.
There we go. Oh my God. See how little I know about anything? Okay, great. All right. Well, a big round of applause to John Rubino for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Back in the lobby. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. Have a great day.